He sat in a wheelchair waiting for dark, and shivered in his ghastly suit of gray, legless, sewn short at elbow, through the park. The voices of boys rang saddening like a hymn, voices of play and pleasure after day, till gathering sleep had mothered them from him. About this time, town used to swing so gay, when glow lamps bundled in the light blue trees, and girls glanced lovelier as the air grew dim. In the old times, before he threw away his knees. Now he will never feel again how slim girls' waists are, or how warm their supple hands. All of them touch him like some queer disease. There was an artist silly for his face, for it was younger than his youth last year. Now he is old, his back will never brace. His loss of color? Very far from here. Poured it down shell holes till the veins ran dry, and half his lifetime lapsed in hot race. And leaps of purple spurted from his thigh. One time he liked a blood smeared down his leg, after the matches carried shoulder high. It was after football, when he drunk a peg. He thought he'd better join, he wonders why. Someone had said he looked a god in kilts, that's why, and maybe too, to please his Meg. Aye, that was it, to please the giddy jilts. He asked to join, he didn't have to beg. Smiling, they wrote his lie, aged 19 years. Germans he scarcely thought of, all their guilt, and Austria's did not move him. And no fear of fear came yet. He thought of jeweled hilts, for daggers and plaid socks, and of smart salutes, and care of arms and leave, and pay arrears, espite to corps, and hints of young recruits, and soon he was drafted out with drums and cheers. Some cheered him home, but not as crowd cheered gold. Only some man who bought him fruits, thanked him, and then inquired about his soul. Now he will spend a few sick years in institutes, and do what things the rules considered wise, and take whatever pity they may dole. Tonight he noticed how the women's eyes passed from him to the strong men that were whole. How cold and late it is. Why don't they come and put him into bed? Why don't they come? The poem Disabled is a powerful evocation of the misfortunes of war. It is a significant piece of literature written to protest against war. It was written by a soldier that experienced war on the front lines during World War I, and it shows the expenditures it has on life. Although Wilfred wrote many poems about war, what makes this poem stand out is the fact that it highlights the after effects of those who survive as they return home injured physically or mentally, as they are unable to get over the horrors they have experienced. The poem was written while Owen was recovering at Craig Locker Hospital in Edinburgh. After sustaining injuries on the battlefield, he decided to write poems as he was inspired by the poet Robert Graves. But while at the hospital, he met a psychiatrist who motivated and encouraged him to develop his war poetry as a form of therapy. It was suggested that he write it down on a piece of paper and erase the horrors from his mind and permanently put them on that piece of paper and leave it there. Interestingly, this was the complete opposite of the advice that was given to the soldier, Men in Black. He was told to forget about the horrors and the terrors of war that he had experienced and to put them in a shoebox and visit them at a later date. In the first stanza, it is a depressed description of a lone man sitting in a wheelchair in a park, unable to walk or participate in any of the activities going on around him. He is dressed formally, but his suit is cut at the waist, which implies that his legs were amputated. He is waiting helplessly, listening to the voices of young children around him, which saddens him. In the second stanza, he is thinking about how his life used to be before the war threw away his knees. This line signifies regret, the regrets of going to war which resulted in the loss of his limbs. Owen uses the words old times, but realistically, these times he's referring to were only 12 months ago. The use of the words old times makes it feel as though those times were so long ago. He feels so old and that he has lost his youth. There was a parallel with this poem and with the novel The Wars. Robert learns that doing what he is told presents himself as a hero to the outside world. This surprising dynamics of heroism is exploited through Robert's relationships. Barbara Dorothy is a character that passes through Robert's life. They were at times lovers intertwined in a romantic relationship. She is a woman that has had many suitors and a personality that reflects that. She sees the hero in Robert. In fact, a more cynical reader could see that she is more in love with the idea of being with a hero than being with a man himself. Her passion is deep, but it is fleeting, and when Robert's novelty wears off on Barbara, she moves her love elsewhere. The third verse depicts an artist who last year loved his face. He was young then and had an even younger look about him. Today he looks at the same reflection 12 months later, and the image is not the same. War had aged him. Owen uses vivid images to describe how the man lost his blood down the shovel holes, leaps of purple birds out of his lay. This was a time when he is remembering the moment that he lost his limbs. The structure and form of this poem is very interesting. It takes the reader on a journey back and forth from past to the present, over and over again. It is very powerful as he tries to illustrate what life was like before and how it is now. We see this not only in the poem, but also the short story, The Necklace, where Miss Louisville's reminisces about the past and the hardships of the present. She thinks about how life used to be before the necklace was borrowed and the difficulties of life after the necklace was lost. This takes a toll on her both mentally and physically, and she was altered to such a magnitude that she was no longer recognizable by her old friends. The next stanza has a change of pace. It is energetic and it is happy. The man is thinking back to happy times when he used to remember playing football and being cheered on when he scored a goal. Back then he felt on top of the world. This is when he decided to join the army. Then a change of mood takes place as he asks himself, why did he? He is regretting the choice he made. Owen feels that he and the other soldiers have been betrayed, as he describes the people recruiting soldiers in charge as smiling when they wrote down the wrong age. He is furious with these people because they knew what was going to happen on the front line, whereas the people at home were ignorant to the horrors. When the soldiers joined the army, they were not thinking about the war, but only the incentive they had to join. He joined to impress the girls and have a new and smart-looking outfit. This man had no fear of the fear of war. Before war, he was a regular boy, but he was cheered out like a hero. The fifth stanza has only 3 lines on its own. This makes them more pronounced. Owen said that he was once cheered, but it is not the same when he returned. People stayed away. There was only one person that thanked him, but they were also asking about Soul. This person had a motive. Owen feels bitterness towards this person. This was the shortest of all stanzas, but I wonder if it's the one that gripped him the most and the area that he least received. Why would people volunteer to go to war? The answer to this question solely relies on the Marxism theory. This theory states that we are conditioned by the economy, such as relationships, education, laws, and etc. It is a form of brainwashing society into believing something that does not really exist, and manipulating and influencing people to behave a certain way. The last stanza describes the life that he will now have. This would be a life ruled by authority, and he will be pitied. The last line, why won't they come, has 2 possible meanings. He could be waiting for somebody to come and put him in bed because he can no longer do it himself. Or he could be asking why the girls don't come around anymore. In both instances, it frustrates him. In summary, the poem Disabled is one of the most written protests against war. Not only does it show the meaninglessness of it and the wastage of life caused by it, but it also highlights the after effects of those who live through it and survive. He shows that after returning home from the war, it is both disturbing and moving at the same time. This poem was a great parallel to the entire course as we explored the Marxism theory and the role it had on war. How Robert was presented in the novel, and the character Miss Louisville from The Necklace. The soldier from Men in Black and the ability to dissect poem was here. I chose this poem because it is a great fit with the theme of this course, the theme of wars. Whether it is the war of the minds, the front lines, or through society, it was a great fit to the end of the course as it talks about the end of war, the sacrifice and the breakdown that actually takes place, as Owen firsthand experiences the disability which he includes in the breakdown of not only his body, but also the effects it has on his mind, and the ability for a human being to function normally. This was most obvious through this poem.